Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rolling Out Star Studio. We have a treat for you guys today. We have Miss Tina.
Hello, everyone, and
Uh-oh.
welcome to Rolling Out Star
Hold
Studio.
on.
We have a treat
Hold
for you
on.
guys today.
Did you hear that?
I'm sorry.
Okay. I had two screens going on at the same time. Let me start over. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rolling Out Star Studio. We have a treat for us today, Miss Tina Andrews. She's an international award-winning writer, producer, director, and author. She had a controversial but award-winning CBS miniseries, Sally Hemings, An American Scandal, which she was known for. She also executive produced that, and it was the highest rated most watched miniseries of the season, garnering Miss Andrews the Writers Guild of America Award for Outstanding Long Form Television and the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding TV, movie, miniseries, or special. And her also her nonfiction book about the miniseries, Sally Hemings, An American Scandal, won the NAACP Image Award for Outstanding Achievement in Literary Nonfiction. Now we're going to get into that. But we have some great news today as well, because she has something that a lot of people want, right? So she wrote a book from Miss Charlotte Sophia. And guess what? The book got picked up by HBO and it's going to be turned into a film. Let's welcome Miss Tina Andrews to Rolling Out Star Studio. And we're going to get into the origins. We're going to get into the beginning of how she became this award-winning author, and then how she went from script to screen, how she went from book to film. Welcome to the show, Miss Andrews.
Thank you for having me, Portia. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. I'm excited. It's not too often that you find an African American woman, executive, international award-winning writer, producer, director, author. You're taking books from, you're taking them from script and you're putting them on the screen. Tell us, how did all of this come about? Let's start with Sally Hemings first, and then let's get into Charlotte Sophia.
Okay. Well, now, Sally Hemings, you know what? I figure I got one more project left in me. If it's going to take me 15 years to get these projects to the screen,
let's do it.
I'll be 90 years old with the next one.
It's okay. We want them all.
Oh, Lord. So Sally Hemings, again, everything seems to start with my dad. I'm so sorry he's gone. I can't tell you, this past Father's Day was hard on me. But my dad had a great library, and we would sit down in his library, and he would always have a glass of wine. I would have Kool-Aid or whatever it was when I was still living at the house as a kid. But I always knew that my father's cousin lived across the street from one of the descendants of Sally Hemings. And he always said, and he mispronounced her name. He said Sally Hennings. So, and I was like, well, who is Sally Hennings? And so he said, well, that was the third president's concubine. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I'm not knowing, I don't know what that meant, but all right, so she was hooked up with slave master Mr. Jefferson. So I'm thinking, wow, and it went on, and he said it went on for a long time. Well, the next time my father and mother went to downstate Illinois, I'm from Chicago, and they took me and my brother along, he visited his cousin, who I can't remember her name now, but across the street was the neighbor who was a descendant. And boy, does she want to talk. And so you start to get this history. You know, our oral history is very valid and very specific, and it's genuine. Most of us, remember, half of us couldn't read or write in those days. All we had was the beating of the drums and the telling of our stories. Our ancestors are griots. I have turned into now a historical griot. So this woman was willing to talk, and I'm listening, and in my head, I'm thinking, ooh, there's a story here. Now, of course, I wasn't the only one that thought there was a story there. But at the end of the day, I had been thrown off the air, you got to remember, Portia, for being an actress on Days of Our Lives.
Okay.
In the first interracial relationship on daytime television.
History maker. Mm-hmm.
So I said to myself, oh, wait a minute. So now we got another interracial relationship of whatever ilk it is that took place 200 years ago. I want to know about that.
Yes.
And so I'm introduced to Descendant and Descendant and Descendant, and they all tell me the same story without knowing each other. When you get the same story from people who do not know each other, then you got to figure there's an element of truth here.
Gotta be.
And so none of the reports, there were two maybe where they categorized him as a rapist, but most of the stories, in terms of her,
right.
But most of the stories were that she favored his wife. His wife was dead. Well, of course, she was his wife's half sister. So here he lost this woman he loved, and in through the door while he's in France comes the spitting image of the dead wife. As a writer, I'm thinking, okay, now that's a no-brainer. Here's a guy mourning the death of this woman he loved, and in through the door comes her.
Yeah.
And he gets to dress her up and fix her up. There's no slavery in France. So this whole story came about, and I wrote it, I felt, A, authentically for the times, and B, the way I felt that scenario probably went. And it took me forever to get it on the air because nobody wanted to tell the story that the president even had a relationship with a Black woman. So that project became my writing sample, and then the DNA came out. And when the DNA came out and said that he had all these children with this Black woman because they connected the DNA from him to one of the brothers of a woman in Staten Island, remember that history broke, and now everybody's calling me Monday morning. Girl, where is that script you wrote?
Wow.
So I had my choice of places to go, and CBS picked it up, and they let me they gave me 4 hours.
Wow.
And so that's how it happened, but it was not an easy process, nor was it short.
Listen, so you have several stories like that, right? So we can get into all of them because I really want to, but I also want to talk about the Charlotte Sophia from books to film. But let's get into the Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy Onassis.
Okay, well now that one was handed to me. All right, so I'm saying that, and what was hilarious to me is so this juggernaut happened that was Sally Hemings, and we are all excited because everybody in America watched it. Was on. You got to remember, I was in Roots, so I already knew what could happen if it was popular, and we got swept away with that, like back in the 70s. So I knew that this was going to be successful if they did it right, and they did it right. And so naturally, then, when you do these projects, they come to you with other projects. And so I get this call from CBS saying, we'd love for you to write Jacqueline Bouvier Kennedy Onassis. And I'm like, okay, you all know I'm a Black woman, right? You all first lady.
Right.
Man, if you give me Coretta Scott King,
right.
And you give me Shirley Chisholm. But they offered me this particular first lady, and I was very thrilled that they put that into my that they put her story into my safekeeping. So that one was given to me. That was not one that I had to research forever. It was based on a book, so that was sort of easy breezy to do her story, and it is how I ended up meeting, in fact, Mrs. King, because Mrs. King, there was an incident, an episode that happened within Mrs. Kennedy's life that brought Mrs. King into the story. And that's how I was able to meet Mrs. King and become a dear friend of hers. I just adored her. So I'm lucky with these stories in that they open up doors to other stories.
Other stories, speaking of, why do fools fall in love? Why do fools fall in love? Why do fools fall in love? Come on.
Okay.
You wrote that one too?
Listen, and that was one that I researched. Wait a minute. Here's the comic part of this. You know who I wrote that movie for?
Ooh.
Michael Jackson. I wrote it. I saw him sing one of Frankie's songs, and I thought, oh, and he had already done The Wiz. So I thought, oh, he might be able to do Frankie Lyman. Got that high voice. This might work out. So I do, again, all the research for Frankie, get the script finished, send it to his people, and I hear back, I don't want to play a drug addict.
You have to do it like that, though, T.
I don't want to play a drug addict. I'm sitting there with a script. oh, I got no Frankie. So I figured since he was one of the biggest stars out there at the time, I figured I didn't have I wasn't going to have a place to sell it. So that is another script that sort of goes to the side. One fine day, I get a phone call from a dear friend who said to me, you know that Morris Levy, who owned all of the Frankie Lyman music, you know, he died. And all of that music is now in the possession of Rhino Records. And Rhino Records is in Los Angeles. So he said, you might be able to get your movie done again. You need to rethink the Frankie Lyman piece. And I cold called Rhino. And I got a guy named Steve Nemeth, lovely, lovely man, who said, we were just thinking about what can we do with this catalog? Hey, let's have lunch. You know, out here in Hollywood, everybody, let's do lunch. But that let's do lunch led to that movie.
Wow.
Because we had this conversation about how the story could go. He had married 3 women. He didn't divorce any of them. So it was bigamy. Suddenly, after he's dead, there's an estate worth $4 million. And now, all of a sudden, you know, in a lawyer's office, 3 women show up saying, yeah, that money is mine.
Wow.
Again, it's a no-brainer if you're a dramatist, right?
Yeah.
And their deal was at Warner's. And so all we had to do was then take our script and my ability to pitch. And we went to Warner's. And at the time, the senior vice president was a guy named Bill Gerber. And he said, I love this. We need to do this.
Wow.
And so that's what happened. They put the director on who had done Selena. I adored him. It's of everything I've written, it's my most favorite project.
Wow. Okay, so you just took us on this whirlwind of your accolades and your accomplishments, and you just let us know you dropped the mic on it, right? But let's go back to your beginnings, right? So when did you know that you wanted to be a writer? What steps did you take? I heard you say that you're from Chicago. So what was it growing up? What was it like growing up? Like, how did you get started in this business? And then, of course, we're going to talk.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Debbie Allen and I started out the same way. I was a dancer. People don't realize I started out on Broadway. I was one of the first dancers black dancers with the Chicago Ballet Company. That was what my life was going to be. And then I was trying to teach myself how to drive and had but I broke my toe on the door of my father's big old Buick. And so, well, there goes that career. And I remember Daddy sitting me down saying, you are too young to think that your life is over. And you all are 16 years old. So he said, just put that energy into another area. He said, you don't have to dance on point. Clearly my ballet career was over. So, I couldn't dance in the point shoes anymore. So he said, but you can still dance. You can do modern dancing. You can do, you do everything else around the house here. So, be a dancer, but just not a ballet dancer. And then I remember thinking, okay, well, that makes sense. And ultimately I went to NYU. And while I'm in New York, there is, there are trade papers. And so in the advertisements of the Backstage magazine, they were looking for people to be in the chorus of Hello, Dolly. And I figured, dancers needed for, Hello, Dolly, all ages, whatever. And I stand in this long line wrapped up around the theater. And when I finally get up there, they say they loved how I danced, but I'm a little short. I'm
how tall?
My driver's license is a lie, and it says I'm 5'2". I'm 5'2", and Naomi Campbell high heel shoes.
Right.
So, I get there, I dance, and they're saying, yeah, but for the chorus, you might be a little short. Can you read lines? And I was always told, you say yes. I don't care what they ask you. Can you ride a horse? Yes.
Yeah.
Can you play tennis? Yes.
Yeah.
So I said,
hang out afterwards. Right.
That's right. Learn how if you get the role.
Right.
But they gave me 4 or 5 pages of dialogue, and they sent me away and asked me to come back. And lo and behold, the character had to be short. Because the joke is she had to be short because her counterpart was like 6'5", and so it was going to be very funny every time they kissed that he had to bend down, and it was the ideal role. So my first role is as Ermengarde in Hello, Dolly on Broadway. So I am now someone who's going on tour, and the tour brings me out to Los Angeles. And we opened on a Tuesday night. Opening night, an agent is in the office. I mean, honestly, this is one of those stories that, you just a dream come true.
I'm loving all your stories.
An agent is sitting in the audience, comes backstage, knocks at the door and says, I don't know how old you are, but you look like you're 10. And I got roles that you can do. If you're at least 18, I have a ton of roles that you can do, because they don't want to pay kids. So they pay older. You had to be, at least 18, but look like a kid.
Right.
And so I said, again, the lie. Yes, I am 18. I was older than 18, but yes, I'm 18. And she said, this is my card. Call me tomorrow. Do you know that when I called her the next day, she said, I have an audition for you for the Brady Bunch. And I'm thinking, the Brady Bunch? Oh, that's my favorite show. I go in the day after, I read for the Brady Bunch, and the day after that, I booked the job. So I'm on the famous episode of the Brady Bunch starring Davy Jones from the Monkees, and they were like the biggest group going. And I have this line that says, gee, Marcia, do you really think we can get Davy Jones to sing at our prom?
Oh my God.
Everybody remembered that episode. Everyone was. So again, I'm always in these like big juggernaut episodes or series or whatever. And that began my acting career out here. So I became a writer because there were not dignified, empowering roles for Black women. I was offered the girl next door, or I was a gangbanger or a young prostitute, or that, there was never any shades of gray. And once again, Daddy said, I'm concerned that eventually you're going to embarrass your family and be naked in some movie. Please remember that everything that you do has a ripple effect on your family, on your church, on your community, on your friends, on everybody. And you're going to have to give it more thought. I would prefer that you call me if you need money to pay your rent versus taking one of the roles that I'm so afraid you're going to say yes to because you can't pay your rent. I will say you, Portia, you know how many times I called Daddy and said, I need my rent. Can you? Right.
I'm trying to adhere to the advice, Father.
I said, well, I'd much rather you send me the money, so that I don't have to play a prostitute on TV or become one. Boy, right. Whenever I said that to Daddy, a check showed up.
Right.
So on the street. Eventually, after I was sort of taken off of the soap opera, which I was a major, remember, it's the first interracial relationship on daytime television. I was the one who was taken off when that negative fan mail came in, calling me the N-word.
Oh my God.
Hurting me out. My God, I couldn't. They stopped giving me mail before I shot. They would wait until after I was finished, and then here's your mail, so I could go home and cry.
Oh my God.
And I said to Dad, it's harder and harder for me to go into work because people in the country hate me. And he said, I don't know why you continue to do that. We sent you to NYU. You were going to be a dancer. He said, well, we sent you to NYU to be a writer. Why aren't you writing your plays? Why aren't you creating? So he said, remember, 800,000 people can play Juliet, but only one Shakespeare wrote Juliet. And when he said that to me, I was ready to hear him. Be the creator, not the interpreter of somebody else's art. Be the creator of the art. And that's when I started.
That just gave me chills. We need people like your father to speak life into us, and to give us the direction that it is that we need so that we can become great. And sometimes it is as simple as, listen, we sent you to NYU. Why you not writing? You need to write.
Right.
So kudos to your father. What did he do for a living? I think we were talking about it backstage a little bit, but what did he do?
Well, listen, my father always broke barriers. We both ended up doing the same thing. My father always broke barriers. My father was the first Black manager in the produce department at a grocery store called Hillman's. And this would have been in the 60s, the first Black person in charge of a division. He also became the first Black manager at Illinois Bell Telephone. He designed and built the home that we lived in. And he made sure that I was going to have my education, because you in Illinois, certainly then in Illinois, you could build a house up to the roof, and then you had to have an actual contractor come in to put the roof on. And the contractor that came in to put the roof on the house said to my dad, "This is a gorgeous house. Who did the plans?" And Dad said, "Well, I did." He couldn't be an architect growing up as a black man in Alabama, but he designed the home that we lived in. So the contractor said, "Mr. Andrews, do you have any other homes that you have blueprints for?" And Daddy said, "Yeah, I have 3. That contractor paid my father a small fortune to buy those blueprints. And my father said, "With this money, you and your brother are going to be educated. There will not be a question of if you're going to college. It's which college are you going to?"
Yeah.
So every time I see that my brother and I, because everyone's gone now, my mom and my father, my brother and I sold the house. But every time I passed by it, I kept saying, we got our opportunities because my father had that level of talent and created that building that helped us to be able to stabilize. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, you had such a fascinating life, and it sounds like, if you have people like your father surrounding you, more people like that, you were blessed, living in abundance. It sounds like you just manifested the heck out of your life.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, Portia. I mean, but I also I'm gonna give credit to higher power, because I stay on my knees and I stay in meditation. I stay, I'm forever thanking of the fact that I know the journey has been long and it's been arduous, but those peaks that come up every now and then, they're very satisfying.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of your other roles. So, of course, you said you played the first interracial relationship in a soap opera. Which soap opera was that again?
Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives.
How apropos. And then what about the role of Kunta Kinte's girlfriend?
Oh my goodness, that was Roots.
And Roots.
And oh my goodness, and we knew it was going to be sensational. And none of us knew LeVar Burton. He was brand new. They found him out of USC. He was 19 years old. And again, my height worked because, he was a kind of a tiny guy. And like I said, I looked 14, which is what they wanted for the role. And he was playing young Kunta Kinte, and people loved seeing us together. Do you know LeVar and I worked 4 more times together after that, because people just loved us. I don't know what, he's such a he's still a likable man, but they loved seeing us together. So producers or directors would say, "Hey, who was that girl you worked in on whatever show?" And so LeVar finally got to a place where he said, "Why don't y'all call Tina Andrews to play my girlfriend?"
Absolutely. You need people like that advocating for you. So call her. So you guys went on to collaborate on the PBS miniseries Alex Haley's Great Men of African Descent.
That's right.
And then that led to
Columbia Pictures, my first sale of a screenplay. Columbia Pictures. And now, Alec, listen, Cole sent him 2 scripts. I sent them to Tennessee. And I'm broke. Keep in mind, at the time, I sent these screenplays to Alex. I'm doing what is called a real job. If you are in the business and you are working, answering the phones for somebody, that is a real job.
Right.
And so I had on my answering machine when I got home, "Hi, if this is the correct number for Tina Andrews, this is Alex Haley." And I'm thinking, "Please call me at blah, 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 blah."
Scrambling to get a pen.
And I'm praying, please telephone, please stay on and not be cut off before I call out. I mean, every bill I had was due. And so I called, and he answered the phone and said, well, when did you become such a good writer? And I was, "Oh my God, you read the scripts?" And he said, "I did indeed, and I want to talk to you about us collaborating on a project for PBS." Now, this is somebody that I'm concerned about the phone, I'm concerned about the lights, I'm concerned about the rent, and Alex Haley is saying, let's collaborate.
Yeah.
I didn't care what it was collaborating on. I was going to
Right.
say, yes,
Yes.
let's do that.
Yes.
He flew me to his farm,
Oh.
put me up in what was called the duck house, because he had lots of external properties on that farm, and so he named them different things. And he put me in the duck house, which was outside from a pond where a lot of ducks and geese were. And I was there 2 weeks working with him on that project. And our first one was going to be on Alexander, all three of the Alexander Dumas.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fabulous, fabulous experience. And he said, I have got to introduce you to my two friends, Oprah and Maya. And I'm like, yes, do that. Do that, Alex.
Do that, please.
Do that, Alex. And so he said, you can come down for your birthday. We'll celebrate your birthday. My birthday's in April. So he said, we'll come down. I'll have you come down and I'll have like a thing and I'll invite people and you'll get a chance to meet them. Alex died. I woke up one day to the news that Mr. Haley had passed away.
Oh,
And once again, you think your career is just completely over. That project, we did not get a chance to complete it, but his voice is always echoing in my head about doing the projects that people don't know about regarding our contribution to world history.
yeah.
His voice is in my head saying that. So now flash forward, I've done Sally Hemings. Who do I get to meet? Because I'm going to try and do Coretta Scott King's story. And
Yeah.
I have been told you're going to be going to fly down to meet Andrew Young.
Oh.
And before you go, Miss Maya Angelou would like to speak to you. So once again, I'm saying
like the blessings keep.
I'm trying to tell you.
Like your cup is overflowing.
So I get to the Sugar Bar in New York, which is owned certainly by Nick and Valerie Simpson.
Oh, okay.
I get to the Sugar Bar and Maya Angelou, Dr. Angelou, is sitting at the bar having a drink. Now, if you knew her, she's like 6'1".
Okay.
And like I said, breathing in, I'm 5 feet.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So she stood up and I said, it was that moment in Network where Ned Beatty looks up and he says, I have seen God. That's how I felt. I looked up at this magnificent woman and she gave me instructions. And I sat there quietly and I listened to her say, when you meet Andy, you will not call him Andy. Andy will allow you to call him Andy if he wants you to. You will address him Mr. Young, Ambassador Young, Mayor Young, anything, but no, he is not Andy. And I said, and the next thing she said to me, I've taken with me. She said, you must continue to do these projects that you do in entertainment that teach our history. You have got to do that. You have found a way to marry history and entertainment in such a way that people will go to their history books to find out what you wrote that is true and what is not. But they will see your project in the process. And I did. Okay, thank you. Yes, Dr. Angelou said that to me.
Wow.
Moral of that story also is when I did get down south and to meet Ambassador Young, I kept saying, well, Ambassador Young, Ambassador Young, Ambassador Young. Finally, he said to the waiter, can we have this lunch sent up to my office? Let's go up there and talk. And we go up to the office to finish the interview. He lights a cigarette. And so he said, I'm Andy. Andy.
Right. Oh, I got his blessing. Okay, it's Andy. I know.
And I still could not call him Andy because, again, Dr. Angelou had said, so
right.
he was Mr. Young to me, but the fact that he had said, I'm Andy, and I said, I'm Tina, but I was still too nervous to call him Andy. But yeah, those kinds of things have kept happening over time.
Listen, so you just mentioned Alex Haley, and you said that he was going to introduce you to Mike Rudolph, Oprah Winfrey. Did you ever get a chance before he died or after he died?
After he died.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Oprah?
I did, because I was on the show when she put the entire cast of Why Do Fools Fall in Love on. It was wasn't just me. My mother was sitting next to me, and she had done this hairdo that she had spray. It was like spray painted. She was going to make sure that hairdo was going to stay in place. So every time they cut to me, there was my mother grinning. She was so proud. So, yes, so I have met Oprah.
Okay.
I met Dr. Angela. Yes.
Okay, let's talk about current day. Like, your experiences have been so rich and just so beautiful. Like, you had to have known that more was in store, right? More was coming, because if the way that you manifested your life as as a young adolescent into your adulthood, if these situations and these opportunities kept coming your way, you had to have known that there was something else. There was something that you were going to. There was gonna be, it was more to come. Let's talk about current day.
Well, no, the answer to that is no. Show business will just say goodbye to you at any point. So you're ready. I'm ready with every success. I'm ready to say that may be the last time I am either on camera or, yeah.
Tina, I'm listening to you now, and there's no way that you could have thought that. Like, because it just seems like you are so blessed. It just seems like, everything that you touched, it came to fruition. Everything you kept saying, I had cold calls, or I sent a cold script. Like, you can't send a cold script to Alex Haley and expect him to call you back.
Now, I had already done Roots, so he knew I had, so he knew me from having done Roots.
Okay,
this was a new me. I mean, me as a writer, I'm thinking, well, we've got nothing to lose. He's really famous, and maybe, he may like this, in which case I was thinking he'd come on and executive produce. Well, yeah, he did. He did better. He didn't do those projects. Those projects became samples, but he called me with the new one. So that was a cool thing. But no, I do not. I always am grateful for what I have on my plate at the time. And when I am doing my prayer work, I keep saying, thank you for the past, because it's led me to today. And if you so see fit to benefit me with any miracles tomorrow, I'll be happy to accept them. But I am grateful for what I have today.
What's that? Is that a mantra that you say all the time?
Yes, all the time. All the time. I'm grateful for what I have to. Tomorrow's not promised. So I am very happy today. I had a cancer scare in 2009. There may not have been a tomorrow. So trust me, my prayer work these days really has to do with how thrilled and happy that I am that I get to do work that I love. And I mean, I love this work and would do it for free, frankly. Oh, I shouldn't say that, because I'm all on the air. And people will say, oh, let's just give you nothing. But I would do this work. I really literally would do this work for free. So I'm happy to be here.
Your frequency is very high. You vibrate very high, and it feels good. Okay, let's talk about Selma. From Selma to Sorrow. Let's talk about.
Well, now that project is in process, so there's very little that I can say about that, other than, oh my God, that was my COVID script. I mean, you talk about blessings that you get. Everybody else is out of work. Everybody else is forced to stay at home. Now, me staying at home is what I do daily, because I'm a writer.
Right.
It's a lovely environment, so I love it here. But people are completely out of work, and I get a phone call out of the blue from Byron Allen's, the head of his company, and it says, "Listen, we work together."
Hold on, Tina. Hold on.
No, it's happened. I got one more. When I get to Charlotte, I'll tell you the same thing. More from heaven. So listen, we own this book. We just bought this book. And so we're going to send it. And if you're interested in this, we would love for you to see if you can tackle the book and do a story about it. And the minute they said Viola Liuzzo, I said, are you kidding me? Nobody's touched her story. Yes, I'm saying yes. I don't care what the book is about. I don't care how the book reads. I don't care. I said, send me whatever you want to send me. But that is a story I would love to do. Do you know that deal was put together before I had read the book? That deal was put together in it may have been a couple weeks. So I get the book, and I'm reading the pages, and I'm saying, this is my trial of the Chicago 7. You know, that movie that came out this past
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
It's wonderful. So that is the piece that I worked on most of last year. And so while everybody was complaining about what was going on with them and COVID and whatever, I rarely had on a mask. I was in here working, happily working. And also when I do the work that I do, I research very heavily. So I did not rely just on that book. Oh, I sent away and I got trial transcripts and I got, stories about other characters that were in the story. It was a beautiful process writing that piece. And so we're at the stage now where we're out to directors and to actors, and we will be filming at some point later on this year. So that's all I can tell you about that. We're up to today on that.
Okay. Yeah. So that's from Selma to Sorrow. So we're probably going to look for that sometime next year.
Yes, right, next year. Next year.
Looking forward to that. What about Buckingham?
All right. Well, Buckingham is my Queen Charlotte project.
Yes. Let's get into that.
Yes.
So listen, okay, I didn't know that was the name of the
yes, the series. Okay, right now, I'm pretty sure they're going to go with that.
Okay,
but that is the current working name. It's not Charlotte Sophia or Queen Charlotte or any of that, but it's based on my book about the Queen of England who turned out to be Black.
Girl, let's hear it. Okay, go for it.
Again, this seems like it's the daddy-daughter show. So I'm just saying, my father again helped to facilitate all of this when he left me his library. And there was a book called Great Men of African Descent by J.A. Rogers, who's a very famous Black historian. Daddy had all of his books in his library. And I inherited them all. And I pick up this particular volume and I'm flipping through, and a couple of pages in is a picture of a woman who looks very ethnic. And it said, Charlotte Sophia, England's first Black queen. And of course, I have to read it, I don't know how many times, because I'm saying England's first Black queen. And I'm thinking, this is not a queen in Africa somewhere. I'm thinking, well, how do we not know? How is there a queen of any European country? And I don't know. As much as I am steeped in history, and being interested in history is not a new thing for me, why do I not know that? And I did as much research as I could do in those days. He passed away in 1987. In 87, I'm still an actress. So I did as much history as one could do at that time. And all I got was a mention from, not from Queen Elizabeth, but an article that said that Queen Elizabeth did address the fact that she was descended from some African blood. And that piece of material just disappeared. The newspapers was out of print. You couldn't find the mention of it anywhere. And so I had as much information as I could get in those days. So I put that project aside and I said, okay, I need to come back to this later on. Flash forward, I've now done Sally Hemings. So people are saying, girl, what do you do for an encore after you do Sally Hemings and you bust out the president of the United States?
Exactly, right.
What do you do for an encore? Set yourself on fire? What do you do? And then I thought about it and I said, ooh, maybe I should reinvestigate Queen Charlotte. Well, this is now 20 years ago. And I decided I need no excuse to go to London. I love London. So I decide I'm not going to get that much information here in America. I probably bought every book that there was to buy. Whoever historian that talked about George, where he talked about Charlotte, I own it. So I got like 137 books on the subject matter and people that are in the story and all of that. So I go to London and I go to the British Museum and I go to the British Library. And there was a lovely man named Sir, I can't remember his last name. He was just Sir Nigel. And Sir Nigel, when he found out that I was trying to do a Queen Charlotte piece, started sending things to me. He would email and say, she had a very small foot, and he was just lovely up until he died. That was a great relationship we had. So I would go to London at least twice a year. And even if I only got a line that I extrapolated from, if you go to the British Library, you can't take those books out. It's a research library. So I was writing things down. They let you take a picture. You would put on the gloves and go through some of the books because they're quite old. And I would get a line here or a line there that I thought would be useful because I needed to at least have the chronology of events in her life before I even knew what my piece would be. It didn't start out as a book. I thought it was going to be maybe a film or a play.
Okay.
And then I ended up with 60 years of information.
Wow.
So I said, no, clearly this is going to be a novel.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I started to write it, not realizing it would take me 8 years just to write the novel.
Oh.
So so that's why I said I'm so excited, by what has happened now, but it was a long journey.
Okay, so a lot of people's introduction to Queen Charlotte was, of course, the series that just came out, Bridgerton, which
That's right.
everywhere. And there were rumblings after the show came out. Was Queen Charlotte really a thing? Was she really black, et cetera, et cetera? And you have a fascinating Bridgerton connection to Queen Charlotte, and I'll let you talk about that because of course, Bridgerton was highly awarded, highly rated show. We loved Bridgerton, and I can't wait for Buckingham, if that's going to be the name of it.
Right.
For that to come out because you spilling some tea, and we know in Bridgerton there was some tea spilling going on. So tell us.
And she's older. She's older in Bridgerton.
Yeah.
So, and my story, of course, starts her out at the very beginning. And my book goes into how, because the first thing you're going to say is, how was she black? Where is that? Where did that blackness come from?
Yes.
So I go all the way back to that Moor, who was all ensconced in the aristocratic lines leading down to Charlotte. But that particular Moor is not the only black blood. There is black blood that came in on the Portuguese line. There was black blood that came in on the Russian line. There are 6 lines of black descent that led to Queen Charlotte, and not just Queen Charlotte. Queen Charlotte and King George were distant cousins. He has black blood, the same black blood in him. So I know I'm telling some truths here, but the reality of the story is that everybody goes back, at least everybody goes back to that Moor. So that's part of the story I'm telling. So I write the book, and the book did well when it first came out in 2013. I wrote a play first, so 2009, 2013, the book comes out, and people are like shocked, as they always are with my projects when they initially come out.
Right.
And so in 2013, so everybody's buying the book, and then things kind of wane. I'm in London in 2017, and the news comes out that Harry has now gotten engaged to Prince Harry has gotten engaged to Meghan.
Right.
And of course, the inevitable comparisons started happening. Well, if Meghan marries Harry, she'll be the first ethnic royal in the royal family. Then somebody else said, oh no, there was a black queen of England. So her picture was always alongside of Queen Charlotte. And my sister-in-law had told me the year before, that's who you need to get to play your Queen Charlotte. There's this girl on Suits, and she'd be perfect. She's the right complexion, because Charlotte was very light-skinned, and so under makeup, no one knew.
Oh my God.
You see? But now she's off the market because, she's getting married to Harry. But my book went back through the roof.
Yes.
You see?
Yes.
So last year, once again, out of the blue,
girl,
my own
listen, I'm listening to you, and I can just attest to there is no out of the blue for you. I just want you to know that you are one of the chosen one. God bless. He sent everything down on you. You are one of the chosen one. There's no out of the blue with you.
Very sweet. Very well. I was minding my own business and got an email from an executive at HBO, and she says to me, my mother loved your book.
Oh my God.
How often does that happen? My mother loves historical fiction projects. And she loved this book. Her girlfriend had suggested it to her. And she read it, and she told me, if you get your promotion, this needs to be the first book you buy.
Girl.
Black executive. And I was heartened by the fact that it was so easy, because she then said, how do you see the story as a, what do you see it as? Do you see it as a series? Do you see it as a limited series? Is it a film? How do you see it? And I said, I see it as a series. It's a 60-year story. So I see it as a series. And it took a while for that deal to be put together. It just, because it's just a function of HBO and my attorney. So it was a long time. But we finally put that deal together early part of this year. And then we were finally able to at least make an initial announcement, which is what you read. And I am currently writing the pilot as we speak.
Wow. Listen, okay, so we got to get out of here. It was such a pleasure speaking with you, but I want you to talk on the Bridgerton connection before we leave.
Okay.
With your book. Let people know what that connection is.
The connection is the audiobook was bought. I mean, my book was bought by Recorded Books for an audiobook. And they said, who would you like to do the narration? And I said, I have a few English actress friends that would be great. And they said, and we have some people too that have worked for us. Why don't we send you our names? And then, you add your names to it. They sent me 5 names, alphabetical. The first one was Adjoa Andoh. And I said, oh, stop. Because Adjoa Andoh, for those of you who love Bridgerton, Adjoa Andoh plays Lady Danbury.
Lady Danbury. Oh my God. What better person?
Of course she is. And she's done 200 audiobooks. And I said, guys, make her an offer like today. Because she'd be divinely perfect.
Oh my God.
She's British. She's upper crust. She has that upper crusty accent because, she can't have a Cockney, character can't be a Cockney. She's got to be very aristocratic.
Yeah.
And Adjoa, being a brilliant actress, can play all the characters in the book. And she signed on, and that book dropped yesterday.
Girl, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. I'm about to go download it tonight. When we get off of this show tonight, I'm downloading it because
she's fabulous. Oh my God, the entire book, because I haven't read it in a while, and she starts reading and I'm going, oh my God, I wrote that. That's how good she is. It just comes to life. I'm very excited about it. I'm very happy. Thank you, Adjoa. Thank you, Recorded Books, and thank you, Portia.
Your life is so fascinating. I thoroughly enjoyed having you on Rolling Out Star Studio. I learned so much. I don't know if y'all can see this, but I'm still getting chills just from hearing your story. Such a blessing, like even to hear everything that you're doing. We can't wait for this series to come out. We know that it's going to do better than Bridgerton. Bridgerton was a hit, but we know this is going to be better than Bridgerton.
There's space for both of us, so I'm just like, there's space for both.
There's room for everyone to win. Yes.
Yeah.
But
thank you.
We already know that this is going to be one that people are clamoring for as well. Such a pleasure. Tell people where they can follow you and follow your movement. And where can I download this book? Because I'm going to download.
The audiobook is wherever you buy audiobooks. So if you buy it on Audible, then I guess that's
where mine is. So I'm going right to Audible.
It's available everywhere.
And the name of it is the Charlotte Sophia.
Yes, the name of the audiobook is Charlotte Sophia, Myth, Madness, and the More. And you can follow me on Twitter at Tina Andrews.
I'm going to follow you right now.
Thank
Tina,
you.
Such a pleasure. Time frame wise, when can we expect this series? Time
frame. Let's get it shot at the end of the year into next year, and we would be talking about next fall.
Okay, next fall. So next fall for Buckingham or whatever the name.
Yes, because people don't realize that King George bought Buckingham for his queen, who was Black.
Girl,
that's why it's called Buckingham. There you go.
Listen, you better educate us.
Yes. Yes.
Black girl magic all the way around. I love it. Okay, so we're gonna look for Buckingham, i.e., Queen Charlotte Sophia.
That's right. That's right. And the book.
And then we're gonna look for From Selma to Sorrow sometime earlier next year.
Yes, yes.
Guys, go follow her. This has been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You gave me life tonight. I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Thank you so much. It was
Thank
a pleasure.
you, Tina. It sure was. Take care.
Ready. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.